He's been painting all night. And I go in and I sit down and I start thinking about my book. And I'm thinking about my role based on this painting that I couldn't bring you. But essentially, it's a dog with a tie on. The dog is George. By that time, he has become the Blue Dog Man. And he is sitting on a grave, his own grave. There is a river, or maybe it's a road, on this great journey of life we're all on. Leading back to not the small, bright horizons that he painted in his Cajun paintings, but a whole big golden sky beneath that oak tree. And at the base of the tomb is a hat. My hat, Jolie Blanc's hat. One of the greatest honors of my life is that George painted me many, many times. Not quite as much as the Blue Dog, but a lot. And he painted me many times also as a Cajun legend called Jolie Blanc. Jolie Blanc is a beautiful waltz song written by a prisoner in Port Arthur, Texas in the 1920s. There are many other versions of the history of the song, but that was the version George liked, so that's why I'm sharing it with you. And when we became us, this was our wedding portrait. George said to me at last, Wendy and you, I have found my Jolie Blanc. My mother really loved that. Terribly romantic. So, oftentimes he would post me in a hat. That's how it is on my business card and many things with the legend. And so at the base of the tomb is Jolie Blanc's hat. And about this time, the great country western singer George Jones died. And my George loved George Jones. And in thinking about that, and thinking about his own journey, on the back of the painting he wrote, "He stopped loving her today." So that's the painting I'm looking at as I'm looking at my book at 5 in the morning, yeah? Working on my book. And I'm thinking about that. Does it lessen what I do? Because I write and I speak and I educate myself fully on my husband. Does it lessen what I do? Because my entire career for, this would be 35 years now, is based on his life and his work. Does that lessen my accomplishment and my identity? I thought a lot about that. And so I started looking up other women that might have been married to high-profile men. And I came across this interview with a woman named Martha Gellhorn. And if you're unfamiliar with her, Martha Gellhorn was a war correspondent during World War II. And she was the first Western journalist into Dachau after the war. Whoa, a woman. Fabulous. And the interview was from the 1970s. It wasn't Dick Cavett, but something like that. And I was watching it fascinated because the first thing that the interviewer asked her was, "Miss Gellhorn, why is it that I am not permitted to ask you about your ex-husband, Ernest Hemingway?" And she said, "Because I refuse to be a footnote in someone else's life." I watched that and I looked back at that painting and my hat at the base of George's grave. And about this time, he gets up and he comes and sits with me and he says, "What do you think?" And I told him the story I just told you. And I said, "George, I want you to know that I am very happy being your footnote." And you know what he said to me? And this is the whole reason I came here, was to say this to every woman in this room. When are you going to realize who you are? Then he said this. He said, "The difference with us, Wendy, is that we put our feelings for each other ahead of everything else, even our personal ambitions." Whoa. The great George Rodrigue said that. Y'all, by this time, he was hanging in museums all over the world. He was one of America's most famous artists, became one of America's most important modernist painters. And he said that. And you know what I said? I said, "Say that again." The difference with us, Wendy, is that we put our feelings for each other ahead of everything else, even our personal ambitions. I grabbed my pencil and I started writing it in my journal. I've journaled obsessively, bless you, thanks, George. And just then, on the speaker, came Stevie Wonder, singing For Once in My Life. And my George, he said, now put down that pencil and let's dance. And we danced in the living room underneath that painting, hard. And he was really sick, so he was exhausted. And we were laughing and laughing. It was our last dance.